In order to understand how breathing correlates with stress and anxiety, we need to understand what signals breathing and why. Then we can alter our breathing to increase stress or decrease stress as needed. Breathing serves two main purposes: inhaling oxygen and exhaling CO2. Step 1. Inhale oxygen. This oxygen enters the lungs and is distributed throughout the body to be used for making energy. Step 2. Exhale CO2. After our body uses this oxygen, metabolic waste accumulates. This waste must be excreted out of the body. Groceries in, garbage out. Hold your breath too long and you will feel the urge to breathe. This feeling is the buildup of that metabolic waste in your lungs. It is this buildup of CO2 that signals our bodies to breathe. This breathing signal is essential for maintaining homeostasis, or in other words, the constant balance of blood flow and airflow are vital for life. Our heart and lungs work in unison to maintain this balance all day, every day. As you increase your heart rate, for instance, during an intense workout, your body will soon begin to breathe faster. This is because metabolic waste, a byproduct of making energy, is being produced at an increased rate. So how does the body handle this increase in waste? It breathes faster. In order to keep up with the elevated heart rate, the lungs breathe faster to dispose of this increase in metabolic waste. Too much CO2 can be toxic. The body maintains the blood's pH balance within a very specific range. Stepping outside these limits can result in organ failure or even death. So, controlling blood CO2 levels through breathing can help regulate our body's blood acidity. Hold your breath and CO2 will start to accumulate in the lungs and be absorbed into the blood. This increase in blood CO2 will lower the blood pH, rendering it acidic. Thankfully, our body has sensors that tell us when it's time to breathe. These sensors are called chemoreceptors, and they are located in the brain and around the heart. When the blood gets too acidic, these chemoreceptors are activated and signal you to breathe. Thanks, chemoreceptors. So you're probably asking yourself, what do chemoreceptors have to do with relieving anxiety? The answer: CO2 tolerance. Okay, hear me out. Our bodies are masters at adaptation. From exercising to getting a tan, our body adapts or becomes more resilient to the stimulation. Our chemoreceptors are no different. For instance, the longer you can hold your breath, over time, the more desensitized your chemoreceptors will be to a buildup of CO2. This means you can last longer before your body signals you to breathe. It's like training for your chemoreceptors. But why is this good? Well, this increase in tolerance to CO2 results in deeper and less frequent breathing. When we breathe slowly and deeply, our bodies are able to relax and feel safe. The ability to change our CO2 tolerance through controlled breathing can reduce anxiety and create a habitual pattern of low and slow breathing. Since anxiety can stem from fast breathing, having the ability to breathe low and slow is essential for emotional stability. The opposite of breathing slow and low would be breathing shallow and fast, which could lead to hyperventilating. In a state of distress, our body breathes at an elevated rate. The term hyperventilate is the term used to describe this state. Visualize a person panicking. Hyperventilating makes our blood less acidic. This is because breathing has increased, but metabolic waste has not. We are breathing faster, but we're not moving faster. This means we are excreting CO2 at a higher level then our body is producing it, making our blood less acidic. Remember, our body is most happy when it's balanced, so even low acidity can be extremely dangerous. Generally, we do not knowingly hyperventilate throughout the day. However, if we feel stressed or anxious, our respiratory rate will increase at an unnoticeable rate. Hyperventilating like this over long periods of time will leave suboptimal amounts of CO2 in our lungs. And what happens next could explain your anxiety. If we are chronically stressed, most likely we are also breathing at an elevated rate. Breathing at this elevated rate causes us to exhale more CO2 than we are producing. Our bodies will then adapt and compensate for this lower level of CO2. This adaptation will make our chemoreceptors hypersensitive to any increase of CO2 in our lungs or blood. This hypersensitivity is an overreaction and will signal the body to breathe prematurely. To make matters worse, this is the beginning of an unfortunate feedback loop. Stress causes fast breathing. Fast breathing excretes CO2. Over time, having low levels of CO2 will make chemoreceptors more sensitive. These hypersensitive receptors will prematurely signal the body to breathe when it notices a slight increase in CO2. This overreaction leaves us with a feeling of air hunger and can cause more stress. The slightest buildup of CO2 signals the body that it requires more air. This phenomenon may be consciously perceived as anxiety. So how can this pattern be broken or stopped? I'll give you one guess: breath work. Thankfully, we can alter or fix this broken pattern with breathing techniques. So, if anxiety can cause us to breathe fast, and breathing fast can cause us more anxiety, then the best way to stop this cycle would be by breathing slow. Decreasing the rate of respiration, or breathing slowly, may counteract the effects of hyperventilation and anxiety. But how slow should we breathe? Research shows breathing at a rate of 6 breaths per minute would be ideal. This equates to a 4-second inhale and a 6-second exhale. Or you can do 5 seconds inhale and 5 seconds exhale. Breathing at this rate has shown the greatest potential for increasing parasympathetic tone, the rest and digest state. In other words, your meditative state. Breathing at a rate of 6 breaths per minute has also been proven to decrease blood pressure and increase your HRV. HRV stands for heart rate variability. HRV is positively correlated with the parasympathetic nervous system and resiliency to illness or injury. Breathing at 6 breaths per minute is great before bedtime as well, or in any circumstances where you're trying to relax or fall back asleep. Also, if you take a break midday, try breathing at this rate for at least 5 minutes. The more often you can access the rest and digest state, the easier it is to access when you need it the most. Remember, if you don't use it, you lose it. If possible, aim for 20 minutes a day. But if that's too much, start off with at least 5 minutes and then work your way up from there. Highly stressed individuals with a low tolerance to CO2 will have a hard time breathing at this cadence. If this is the case, practice small breath holds every day to build up your tolerance. To do a proper breath hold, take a normal breath in, then a normal breath out, and hold your breath for 5 seconds. Once 5 seconds is up, inhale through the nose and breathe normal for 10 seconds, then repeat. Aim for a minimum of 10 minutes total time throughout the day. That could be 2 minutes while reading the news in the morning, 2 minutes at lunchtime, and then 6 minutes before you go to bed. After a few days, try to hold for 10 seconds. As you increase your hold time, increase your resting time as well. For every second you hold your breath, rest for 2 seconds. Once you can hold your breath for 15 seconds with no feeling of air hunger, then you can move on to the 6 breaths per minute exercise.